The story begins with our main character, Chihiro Furuya. He is a high school student who has an unusual obsession with zombies and spends most of his time in his room watching zombie movies. He even has a collection of zombie-related items in his room. Chihiro lives in the temple. He lives there with his grandfather Jagaru, his father, the temple's priest, and his stoic younger sister Mero. His mother died when he was young, so he has few memories of her, and he is happy to live alone in his room. But fate had different plans for Chihiro. His cat named Babu died in a car accident. Even though the cat had died, Chihiro kept thinking about reviving the cat. He later discovered a manuscript in his room that described the art of resurrection. Chihiro dug Babu out of his grave and took him to an abandoned building to try to bring back Babu. He plans to resurrect Babu by following the instructions in the mysterious book. On the second night, he notices something strange. A girl bending in front of a well near the building grounds, screaming into the darkness at the top of her lungs. On the next day, as Chihiro prepares ice cubes to preserve Babu's body, Mero approaches him and wonders what he is doing. He doesn't say anything and walks away to school. On the way to school, Chihiro's friend Yasuda informs him that the Sanka Girls Academy's daughter, Raya Sanka, has enrolled this year, and she is very cute. Back at Chihiro's house, a cheerful girl named Renko visits him in his room and returns the DVD he borrowed, which is, as you might expect, a zombie horror film. Chihiro asks her if she knows anything about Raya Sanka, and she responds that Raya is the school director's daughter, so she just knows her by face. Renko teases him, saying, "So you have finally fallen in love." But he clarifies that this isn't the case. He's just curious because Yasuda was making such a big deal about her. Chihiro persists to try to bring back Babu that night. He's collecting all of the ingredients as instructed in the book, but there's an unreadable page. It requires a poisonous plant, but he has no idea what kind. He decides that if the method doesn't work out by the end of the week, he'll bury Babu back. He is interrupted by a girl who is screaming about her life outside, at the well. Chihiro's unfazed reaction shows that he's used to listening to her life complaints, but he's surprised when she says something that completely shocks him. She says, "Father, would you stop taking pictures of me every year on my birthday, naked, to check my growth?" Raya notices Chihiro's presence. In the next scene, we see Raya and Chihiro sitting awkwardly next to each other in the room. Raya then tells him promises to do anything as long as he doesn't tell anyone what he heard. Raya talks with Chihiro for a while after learning about his experiment to bring the cat back to life. She expresses her desire to help him with it. On the following night, she rejoins Chihiro for the experiment, keeping herself entertained by watching zombie films while Chihiro prepares the potion. As she watches, she remembers her childhood and how her father Danichiro isolated her from everything, including maids and pets, because he was obsessed with keeping her all to himself. Back to the present, the two counts the ingredients needed to make the potion. Raya leaves without saying where she is going to look for a plant. Chihiro gets worried after a few moments and looks outside and finds out that she is about to fall from a cliff. He then pulls her up. She gives the flower to Chihiro and requests him to bring her back to life if she dies. Again in a flashback, we see Raya's father organizing photo shoots on her birthday every year. He would have her naked in front of the camera and make her doing poses. Raya, being the obedient child that she was, gladly obliged and even appeared to be having fun. But she realized as she grew older that this was not normal. Even worse, her mother seemed to be aware of her father's actions but never intervened. Raya was unhappy because of her living situation. The remedy is completed with the addition of the new plant, which is likely poisonous. They feed it to Babu in the hopes that he will wake up. However, it is a failure and Chihiro takes Babu back home in the icebox. Meanwhile, Chihiro offers Raya a ride home after she injures her leg. For the first time, she feels like a normal girl, but her situation quickly becomes worse when her father finds out that she has been spending time with Chihiro. When she returns, he punishes her severely. When Chihiro returns home, Renko welcomes him and inquires about where he had been at this hour. He tells an open lie about going to the convenience store to get some ice cream. When Renko opens the cooler, Babu jumps out alive. He then hops around the room before getting outside. Chihiro, astounded by the results, says that his potion worked. Raya enters her room depressed because her father said that he will never let her out of the house again, and he even refused to let her go to school. Raya turns out to have taken some of the resurrection potion with her. She considers drinking the potion as the attempt to end her life. Fortunately, Raya wakes up the next morning alive and well, but unhappy that the potion was useless. She decides to act as if nothing happened and continues her normal routine. She greets her parents as happily as she can. Her father apologizes for slapping her, but she says that he was correct. She expresses her appreciation for her father, but it is clear that she does not mean it. Rhea's father asks why she is wearing her school uniform when he had previously stated that she would be homeschooling from now on. When her father's butler arrives, she walked out of the room. Eavesdropping at the door, Rhea overhears them discussing about Chihiro, and his father asked the butler to castrate him. In the meantime, at Chihiro's house, Mero and Ranko couldn't believe Chihiro's story about Babu's revival. Chihiro quickly stands up and begins chasing after Babu before they could properly question him. Ranko goes behind him. Ranko gets stuck as they crawl through the narrow passageway. Rhea, who listened to the conversation, sneaks out of her house and goes to Chihiro's school to inquire his friends about him, but he is not there. Chihiro finds himself in an unusual location where he finds out Babu eating the same flowers that Rhea brought that night for the potion. Rhea gets at the cliff near Chihiro's location and walks through the terrain in search of Chihiro. Her father then shows up and tells her to return home. But for the first time ever in front of her father, Rhea raises her voice. Babu quickly climbs the slope, and the man is shocked to see such a filthy cat. Rhea approaches Babu, surprised to see that the potion really worked. Just as her father is about to attack Babu for being too close to Rhea, she protects him and falls down on a tree branch, dying from the impact. Chihiro is devastated and approaches Rhea's body. But things take a turn for the worse and Rhea resurrects as a zombie from the potion she drank earlier. Rhea tells Chihiro, "As promised, please take my responsibility," and he replies, "Okay." Danchiru gets a nightmare about the recent incident involving Rhea and watches her leave, saying that she is no longer his daughter. He wakes up in the bathtub, surrounded by photos of Rhea. Rhea hears the maids discussing Rhea's disappearance and confronts Danchiru, who's worried about his daughter's whereabouts. The butler tells that she must be with Chihiro, and Danchiru makes it his life's mission to bring back Rhea. Chihiro had brought Rhea to his house, and they were having a pleasant conversation on the verge of kissing. However, their intimate moment was interrupted by the arrival of Ranko, who angrily yelling at Chihiro from outside. Ranko then took Chihiro away to a nearby river, where she roughed him up for causing problems. In the meantime, Chihiro's friends showed up at the river and revealed that Rhea had been looking for him, which made Ranko jealous. Chihiro began to have feelings for Rhea, who happened to be a zombie. Later in his room, Chihiro realized that if he didn't preserve Rhea's body, it would become stiff. Chihiro leaves Rhea's body on the bed and goes to sleep in another room, contemplating what to do to preserve her body. When the next day comes, he asks Mero for books on body preservation. To avoid raising suspicions among his family, he hides Rhea's body in the closet, but he notices that her body is completely stiff and that strange sounds are coming from her stomach because she is hungry. He goes downstairs to have breakfast with his family and promises to bring her food as soon as possible. Ranko had just come out of the house when he ran into his junior, who is Rhea's friend. She inquired about Rhea and wondered what had happened to her, because Rhea did not appear at school today. Ranko simply suggested that she should ask Rhea's parents about the matter and then walked away. The Chihiro family comes together to clean the house. It makes him uneasy because he is concerned about Rhea. Chihiro's father told him that he noticed that Chihiro had brought back another cat shortly after Babu died. Chihiro told him that Babu had been revived by the resurrection potion. Grandpa Jagaru claimed that he was the one who created the resurrection potion. Before Chihiro could learn more about what his grandpa said, he was interrupted by his father and then by Ranko, who had come to the temple in order to help. Ranko informs Chihiro that Rhea has noticed Chihiro's interest and that she knows he is her ideal type. Ranko walked out of the house, but she got back moments later to look for zombie films. Ranko entered Chihiro's room to look for zombie films. She couldn't decide on a movie. Suddenly she noticed a long black hair nearby that didn't belong to Chihiro. Ranko then opened the wardrobe door and saw no one. She gets scared. Rhea was behind her and pinned her down. Ranko shouted after hearing that Chihiro was running towards the room. Rhea was licking Ranko's chest. He immediately pulled her away. As soon as she noticed Chihiro, she called his name and ran up to kiss him. Ranko believes that Chihiro killed Rhea to satisfy his passion and turned her into a zombie. Rhea follows Babu outside the place and finds some hydrangea flowers, which were used in the potion. She eats the leaves, just like Babu, and finally regains her consciousness, and it also cures her body's stiffness. Chihiro's grandpa reveals that Rhea needs to consume these leaves in order to function properly. Because the resurrection potion was still incomplete, the solution is only temporary. Mero shuts down the old man, and Chihiro asks his father to let Rhea stay at their house because she has nowhere else to go. His father accepts and Chihiro starts observing and documenting Rhea's zombie state. He also begins filming Rhea with a camera for better observation. Chihiro went downstairs to eat, but his father noticed Rhea is not here for dinner. Chihiro said that Rhea did not want to burden the family. Meryl also prepared meal for Rhea and asked Chihiro to convey the message that all of them would be happy if she came down to eat with them. Rhea loses her taste buds, so she can only pretend to eat. Renko brought her clothes for Rhea, but Chihiro wasn't able to clarify that Rhea is not his girlfriend, so Renko leaves. Chihiro brought the clothes upstairs and noticed Babu and Rhea sitting together. After that, Chihiro and Rhea went for a walk. Rhea seems normal, and no one suspects she is a zombie. Chihiro promised to take care of Rhea from now on. Chihiro was still thinking about how to preserve Rhea's body, and because of that he didn't notice the speeding car, and Rhea had to pull him back. Chihiro was hurt because she was too strong for him to resist. When Rhea saw him bleeding, she apologizes. Rhea licked Chihiro's injuries to keep it from getting infected. Renko walks back home from Chihiro's place. In a flashback, we find out about Renko's family restaurant business. Chihiro volunteers at the restaurant the next day. While they are having their usual conversation, Renko's mother teases both of them by offering Chihiro to marry Renko. When Chihiro saves Renko from falling in the kitchen, she becomes even more flustered. Later, she recalls Chihiro approaching her and helping her when she was crying in the middle of a graveyard. Renko began playing with Chihiro at the temple after that, but she lost interest in him when she noticed his obsession with zombie films and how he was a weak and emotional kid outside of his little comfort zone. Back in the present day, Renko continues to use Chihiro's help to make deliveries of restaurant orders in the neighborhood. Chihiro's father encourages her to keep doing because she takes very good care of Chihiro. They continue on their tasks. While discussing Rhea's situation, they stumble upon Chihiro's friends, who tease them about dating. Renko recalls meeting Chihiro once again 2 years after their first meeting. She was unable to understand why Chihiro preferred horror films to anime at that age. Little Renko got quite angry and began running back in order to change the DVD to an anime one. A dog, however, blocked her path, and Chihiro, despite being terrified of the dog himself, helped her. He scared off the dog and saved her. Back in the park, Chihiro's friends leaves after annoying the two. Renko wants on Chihiro holding her hand like they used to. Chihiro's remarks embarrass Renko, and later after the final delivery of the day is completed, she returns determined not to lose to Rhea. After some time, Rhea begins to eat with Chihiro's family and introduces herself as a vegetarian, while Chihiro continues to record her for additional observations. Chihiro discovers minor details about zombie behavior, such as the inability to sleep and the inability to sweat even in a hot environment. Rhea becomes embarrassed as a result of Chihiro's observations, and when the two are in Chihiro's room, she demands that he take her to the mall for shopping in exchange. Chihiro accepts, and the two go to the mall to look for clothes for Rhea. This reveals Rhea to be a very indecisive person. Chihiro stands by outside while Rhea chooses on her clothes. She is happy to be able to do normal stuff that she couldn't do in the past. Their trip continues, and Danichiro is shown to be on the move, with henchmen surrounding the pair to keep track of them and possibly get back Rhea. When he visits the haunted house, our zombie-loving Chihiro is revealed that he is not the bravest guy in reality. While the two are having lunch, Rhea finds this contradiction amusing. Just as Chihiro is about to leave to get his food, the henchmen coming towards Rhea are interrupted by Chihiro's friend, who tries very hard to get Rhea's attention. After that, the henchmen agree to give up their sneaky plan and kidnap Rhea. They were, however, defeated by Rhea's zombie superhuman strength. Chihiro comes just as Rhea is crying to him outside. At that point, the henchmen change their minds and decide that they will kidnap Chihiro instead. They pulled him in their car to Danichiro's location. The henchman takes Chihiro to a room and ties him up while he awaits a meeting with Danichiro. Rhea enters the room as a maid serves him juice. After hearing Chihiro's complaint about being kidnapped, she clarifies that she is Danichiro's second wife and opens up a story from when Danichiro was younger. Every maid tried to marry him because he was the head of the Sanka family, but he was uninterested. Rhea wanted to marry Danichiro herself, but Danichiro showed no feelings. He eventually met a 15-year-old sick girl in a wheelchair, and that's when he fell in love. Danichiro proposed to the girl despite family opposition, and was even willing to give up his position as head of the household for her. Danichiro ended up marrying her, but the girl died shortly after giving birth to Rhea. Danichiro got married to Rhea after she helped him get through a period in which he became seriously malnourished and depressed as a result of anxiety and stress. Rhea finds that Danichiro does not love her and only married her in order to have a mother for Rhea. She also revealed that Danichiro is obsessed with Rhea because she looks like her mother. Before she can finish her sentence, a maid takes Chihiro away to a room filled with Rhea's portraits, where Danichiro awaits him. Danichiro brings Chihiro through a hallway, making him think he will be tortured, with no hope of forgiving him. Chihiro imagines himself being thrown off to a mountain, but Danakuro actually brings him to a dojo for a little battle to test his skills. Meanwhile, Rhea comes at the Sanka Palace, where she is tied down by the maids. They punish her by forcing her to wear strange outfits. Rhea, on the other hand, uses her zombie muscle strength to break free from the chains and starts to look around the house for Chihiro. Meanwhile, at the dojo, the two are preparing for a sword battle in which Chihiro must land only one hit to win and show his skill. Chihiro, on the other hand, takes a different tactic, mocking Danichiro for being a bad father and insulting him for taking naked pictures of his daughter. Despite Chihiro's mockery, Danichiro initially remains calm, but he in the end stabbing Chihiro at the same time Rhea enters the room. Despite getting stabbed, Chihiro is still able to mock Danichiro and says that he must have become a half-zombie now because he was being affected by Rhea's poison when she licked the wound on his arm. The two continued to argue, and Chihiro clarified that Danichiro's principles of treating Rhea as a special being was not the right choice to begin with. He pointed out that Rhea only wanted to live her life as a normal girl, free of control. Chihiro's words moved Danichiro, and he decided to leave Rhea in Chihiro's care while he traveled to a foreign country in order to find a cure for his daughter. Chihiro ends up passing out due to a sudden loss of blood and awakens in his room and finds Rhea dressed as a nurse. Ranko also shows up to see Chihiro and mentions that she is his fiancée, which makes Rhea realize that Ranko loves him too. Chihiro accepts the responsibility that Danichiro is left on his shoulder. After dinner with Chihiro's family, he takes Rhea for a walk outside and says that this is the most he can do for her. Rhea, on the other hand, acknowledges his efforts, saying that she was never able to do even this much in the past. On the way back, Rhea sees a firework festival scheduled for tomorrow and asks Chihiro to take her there. He agrees, but the rain derails their plans, leaving her disappointed. The following day at school, Ranko grasps Chihiro as usual, making his classmates envious of the two. Later, Chihiro discusses the fireworks situation to Ranko, and she suggests that they organize their own fireworks show at the temple. Mero suggests that Chihiro should allow Rhea to continue attending school as well, but Chihiro is unsure whether he would be able to keep her identity as a zombie hidden. When the fireworks start, Ranko is in Chihiro's room with Rhea, where she confesses her love for Chihiro to Rhea and asks her to be her rival for Chihiro. Rhea enjoys watching the fireworks and later returns home to get her school stuffs, where Aria's attitude towards Rhea is changed. After that, Chihiro's life goes on as he finally gets the zombie girlfriend he always wanted while searching for a cure to save Rhea. And that's how the Season 1 comes to an end. I hope you enjoyed today's video. Let me know what you think about this anime in the comments, and as always leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you all in the next video.